Yeah. Blown away immediately.
You ready?
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Peter Barber. I am a professional opera singer, and fun fact, I just met Will Ramos of Lorna Shore because he and Elizabeth Jaroff came to one of my opera performances in Tucson. So really cool to meet him. I will throw a picture of that up here. Really awesome. And I told him, I was like, hey man, I just did a video for Alex Terrible, and everyone in the comments was like, you've got to check out Lorna Shore, you've got to check out Will Ramos. And I was responding like, hey, I'm actually meeting him tonight. He's coming to my opera. So really excited to actually hear Will do his thing for the first time. Fully expected to be blown away. Guys, let's get into it. Actually, one more thing. This is a reaction and analysis, so I will be pausing primarily to talk about vocal technique, although this kind of vocal technique I'm expected to hear is well outside my wheelhouse. I'm just now starting to get exposed to it, so we'll see what kind of commentary I have. I might just be here slack-jawed, looking like a fool, trying to understand how these sounds are made, but, you know, that's part of the fun. So I will be pausing, but let's get into it. Before we go further, I produce a lot of music as well, so I often comment on audio engineering and other musical aspects in addition to the voice and the vocal technique used. Love the intro to this, just acoustic guitar with a little bit of soundscape behind it. I think it seems like it's meant to mimic the sound of smoke, perhaps, coming off a fire. You don't hear the fire aspect of it, but you hear a hiss. You hear a hiss, and it really, whether or not that's what they were going for, it really nicely mimics the imagery we're seeing here. This like, in addition to the acoustic guitar, to me it feels like someone, you know, sitting by a campfire playing an acoustic. Super raw sound, and I did just hear, you know, that heavy come in. So we'll see what happens next. I don't think the song will stay with just acoustic guitar. Just a hunch. It is. Yeah. Blown away immediately. And unexpected. So this is really different than so far the technique that Alex was using in Viking, from Slaughter to Prevail as the group. This is like much higher in Will's register than we were hearing so far. No, this will surely not be the only technique he uses, but this is up in that kind of high head voice falsetto register, right? This is above his natural chest range, but still with the same intensity and grit sounding as well. Super interesting. Not what I was expecting at all. I was going to pause and talk about, you know, some of the instrumentation, but I think we plow ahead after listening to that again. Really cool. So just as jarring and shocking, but actually very different from what I've heard in this genre of music before. A very different kind of, you know, harsh vocal singing. Like, that's really high. If you actually try to pitch those notes, and it's hard to pitch because there's so much what's called noise and turbulence happening to the sound, because it's not, the vocal folds are not just very cleanly oscillating like this. There's a lot of turbulence happening, and so it's hard to hear precise pitch, but you can tell it's actually quite high, And not only is it quite high, but it's definitely high. Like the pitch actually being produced is also higher than it sounds. So it sounds high, and it's actually even higher than that. Will is way up there in his range right now, for sure. Still pretty high in his range as well. I want to see, I was going to put on closed captions, but they are unavailable. That is one thing I wish I could hear maybe I could pull up the text on my iPad just for fun. Give me a hot second. Mason, you can cut this out. All right, I've got the lyrics pulled up over here, so I'll just kind of try to keep a tab on what's going on, although it's already a lot to pay attention to. But anyway, here we go. It is amazing. I mean, I have no idea what the lyrics are if I'm just listening straight on, but it becomes very obvious while staring at the lyrics. So that's cool. What if I can position this in a little better place so I'm not just staring away from the camera? I'll just keep a tab on it. I'll just check in. I always do comment much more on the voice and vocal technique and instruments and audio production and audio engineering than the lyrics. That's a whole other, analyzing the poetry is a whole other thing. That's that would just kind of change the nature of these videos. So I kind of stick to what I'm best with. So that was, we were getting some of that lower, more closer to what I was hearing from Alex Terrible in that video I mentioned before. So this is crazy. So with Will, we're getting an enormous range of how he can operate within these really harsh vocals. So like in the beginning was really high up in his, for what it sounded like, way up in his head voice falsetto while inducing all that grit as well. And then here we're getting, much more chest dominant harsh vocals towards the end of this section. So really cool to hear that range. I haven't heard someone do that range. Tatiana from Ginger is someone else who I've also seen pull off a significant amount of range as well. The thing about the male voice is that naturally, if you can access your high head voice, you're going to have more range than the overwhelming majority of female singers, because our male natural chest voice sits so much lower. So you automatically have like an extra octave on the bottom. And if you train your head voice falsetto, you can usually sing not quite as high, but close to as high. And especially lower voiced sitting males can really, like a bass voice like me, if I have access to my full range, it's like all the way up to soprano, and it's not good. Like I wouldn't want to use it in a live setting, but I can squeal my way up there and then sing all the way down into the low bass range. So just naturally, the male voice has the ability to extend their range further in either direction. And so we see that here with Will already, where he was way up high early on, and now it's getting lower. And I'm interested to see if he goes even lower into his low chest range as well. But because this singing here, there's so much turbulence and grit and noise, and it's the false fold activation, which is a subharmonic of sorts, because the false folds vibrate at half the speed. They vibrate basically one octave lower than the true folds. So when you're hearing this false fold activation stuff, it's really an octave lower than what he would be singing if his true folds were just engaged. And so it makes the sound, it's like he's singing actually much higher than it sounds like. And with all the distortion and the open throat and the darkness in the sound, it sounds like a really low, like demonic kind of voice. But if you were to actually pitch what the voice would be doing in its natural state, it's actually pretty freaking high. He's like pretty much high chest belting right now, but with all the other elements, it sounds really, really low. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, and I hope I'm explaining it, on some understandable level. We're getting like the whole spectrum of what you can do in this style of singing. This is absolutely wild. This is like I would love to hear his voice just on its own. I need to start poking around. I would also love to get Will on the channel to chat. So we'll see if I can arrange that as well. That shit is like more what I was accustomed to hearing. Only very recently have I been accustomed to hearing it, but that like that really dark, like covered, what are they called with Alex, the alligator growl or something? I don't know all the terminology yet, but that is, it's so cool. So that is probably towards the lower end range-wise of what we'll get from Will and this style of harsh, gritty vocals. Absolutely nuts. It's so like if I'm like, there's a lot of lyrics here. There's a lot of lyrics in this song, and so I'm like, if I don't know, if I lose my place, I'm like, I don't know where we are, because it is really hard to understand. That's one thing that interests me about deathcore music is like, because the lyrics are really powerful. I mean, they're really evocative, and so. And they work really well with the music, but if you can't understand the lyrics, like if you're listening to a song for the first time, or maybe you get used to listening to this kind of singing and then you can understand the lyrics much clearer for like a first time listen. But like if I went to a show and I wanted to know the lyrics, I would need like my iPad with me so I know what they're saying, which like, that kind of rips you out of the experience. So, hey, deathcore fans, what's up? Well, how do you guys deal with lyrics if you haven't heard a song before? I would be really interested to hear that. Yeah, it's so cool to hear the range he's going through it, and this song particularly is changing so much section to section. It's like, it seems like it's built in that we'll have that freedom as an artist to show all these different angles and elements and styles within the style, because the section to section is so different. Comment on the background. I love that we've got a lot of orchestration happening. So in addition to what we're seeing on screen in any case, it seems like there's also orchestration. There's stringed instruments happening to kind of fill out any empty space and make the sound even more epic. It actually might be just guitar. It might be just, heavily multi-track guitars. It might not be. Well, that is a stringed instrument. But I mean, I was originally hearing like violin section, kind of like full orchestra kind of thing. But I think it could be just heavily multi-tracked guitars. again, like once I've looked at the line and then I hear it, it's like, oh, of course that's what he's saying. But if I don't do that, it's really hard for me to understand. It's a great thing in music, pretty much no matter what genre you're singing in, to if you have a repeat of the text, to do something different in some way, maybe totally different, like Will just did. So he has, where's the line? Swallowed by the womb of death. He sings in that really low, gritty voice, and then he goes way up into that kind of screamy head voice that he started the song in when the line repeats. Swallowed by the womb of death. So we get like his whole range, and it's great. He like all this contrast between one repetition of this line to the next. I was going to comment on the drummer, because like drummers especially in these groups blow my mind, because it's like you've got just an incredibly efficient, like a robot back there, just like perfectly in time with the double kicks, right? So each time they hit the kick drum, it happens twice, and so they can get this like going with their feet and their hands, and it's crazy, and they're like the ultimate timekeepers, and it's badass, and that's all. It's crazy how much these songs change section to section. This is a very odd connection I'm about to draw, so just bear with me. Another genre that does this is K-pop. Bear with me. Obviously, completely different styles of music, completely different video production, completely different singing, completely different choreography. Everything is different. But what K-pop is doing, which most pop music is not doing, is radical changes in the music from section to section and not repeating it the same way, and almost to the point of like completely changing keys into like a down section and then coming back. And so far what I've heard from deathcore is that they also have radical shifts from section to section in the music, whether it's the singing or the instrumentation or absolutely everything. And so it's really interesting because I just recorded a video for a K-pop song, and I was like, you never really know what's about to happen. You can't really expect or predict what's going to happen in the following section. And you get that in both these genres. Who else has made a connection between deathcore and K-pop? I challenge them. So that's just just because I just did one. I'm kind of doing these back to back. So just that is one bridge you can draw from one genre to the next. There's always something. There's always something. So in addition to Will being a beast on the vocals, listen to these crazy kick drums happening. I think I'm getting better at understanding them. I couldn't get all the words, but I got more than at the start of the song for sure. Getting better. I'm learning. absolutely nuts. I mean, it sounds like two totally different singers. And sometimes you get that in other genres when, you know, you'll have someone who sings really well as a bass, but they have extended their range way up. Colin McGuinness is a great example. If you guys have ever heard of Colin, really low bass voice, but has a crazy upper range as well. And it really sounds like different singers when he's doing different sections. It's actually the opposite of what you want in opera. In opera, you want, if you can, with really good technique, you can get this basically just a column of sound from the very top of your range all the way to the bottom. Like the same warmth, the same color, the same breath support, the same vibrato, the same efficiency of the vocal folds, absolutely top to bottom. And then from there, you can choose to add colors and do things differently. Whereas every other genre that I've seen, it's totally different. No one thinks about their voice as being one cohesive unit. You really think about like you sounding like a different person in your head voice versus your chest voice versus whatever. So it's a very different approach. Obviously, opera is like so incredibly demanding technically, and the technique has to be maddeningly perfect, and there's a standard for that. But cool to think about the differences between that. And so what I'm noticing from Will is like during this really low sounding harsh vocal stuff, it sounds like literally a different human singing than when he's doing the really high head voice kind of screamy stuff. That repeat changes the voice on the repeat. Love it. So now, same as the intro, except we have a little solo electric guitar in addition to the acoustic and the shh and the kind of hiss atmosphere. My question is, do they have an outro for the video, or are they about to go absolutely nuts in the last minute? I think they're about to go nuts. Woo! And fire. I love that color on an electric guitar solo. I love it. To me, just again, pulling something deep out of my memory. To me, it sounds like the color I remember hearing in Through the Fire and the Flames by Dragon Force. That on the guitar solo specifically. Well, obviously everything else, a lot of the other elements are very different compared to the song, but specifically the color and quality of the electric guitar sound, and I love it. And I think it's so good for like a really shreddy guitar solo. It's like really bright and in your face, and it has an edge to it. It's like perfect. It's like perfect for a shreddy guitar solo. So I think that's where I heard it most clearly is Through the Fire and Flames guitar solo. Listen to those drums too, man. Kick drum is literally like that's what that MF is doing with his feet. That's just crazy. On the word gate that I see here, like really, really high, going from that low chest harsh vocal to extremely, extremely high. God, it's wild. It's wild. I gotta go. There was something else I wanted to say. So what there is some of, I'm pretty sure, at least this is what all my audio engineering background would suggest, although these vocals are still kind of a mystery to me. For this first line here, one voice, right? One voice, there's no multi-tracking, and it's right here in the center. And then when it goes again, it sounds like layered vocals. So multiple voices happening at the same time, some in the middle, some panned left to right. So you get the full, I don't know if did I use in this video, stereoscopic image, where you hear the sounds left to right. You know, you hear some stuff in the left ear, some stuff in your right ear. It sounds like we get voice in the middle and voice in left and right ear, likely due to multi-tracking. So you get a very different quality hearing one voice right in the middle, especially with these really turbulent, you know, noisy vocals, when there's so much like grit and harmonic disturbance that it already sounds like a lot if it's just one, and if it's multiple, it's like, woo, it's like there's so much noise happening. But listen to the difference here. From right here, right in the middle, to this bit. Then it's everywhere. There too, the noise is like 360. Back in the middle. No, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think any lyrics are happening in that one section where I was shitting myself. It was just, God, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's wild. This is fun. You gotta like, do producers in Hollywood know about these singers? Like, you've got to get some of these guys doing like horror movie sound effects if they're not already. Like, that's $1 billion idea. Like, this is a freaky, super intense sound. Like, you got to put it in a horror movie. I'm just saying. Right, you know, like a horror movie, they've got some terrifying guy or creature, like, you know, locked up in a room, and there's the guard that has to guard the door, and the creature gets out. You know, the guard comes down, right? He's walking down this freaky, dark, gloomy staircase, and there's this door with a bunch of chains and bars blocking it, and inside the cell, you hear that shit. $1 million idea. Sign me up. Wow, what a first experience with Will Ramos and Lorna Shore. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope I increased your appreciation for the group, although, again, I mean, there's much less true vocal analysis that I'm confident about. But what an experience. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please consider joining my Patreon for free. And then to get benefits, as little as $1 a month, please like, please subscribe, leave a comment. What else from Lorna Shore and Will should I check out and listen to? And freak out about. It's good shit. Really good shit. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.